Well, we're going to record now, so we'll be late. We will be late on our show in the morning. There, we'll go back to that. Sorry for those on the TV side. We're getting bounced around here, and whatever. I'll go back and do the date. It's November 1st, 2012. And we're talking about the Eurozone. And then we talk about I was mentioning about our local folks that get together and some of I guess all I can say about this is that the immediate needs of people here in Lake Wish-I-Be-Gone are far outweighing the what I would call a rational thinking process that would normally take over during a presidential election cycle. And I think it's missing this year. And we in Wisconsin have had our belly full of politicians. That seems to be the resounding, after you get through that initial, I'll vote for this, and he'll do that, and blah, 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 the resounding reply that comes up in social gatherings from the local eateries to the local drinking establishments to the local garages where people get together, tip a couple beers, have some snacks, and, shoot the breeze a little bit and get together with their neighbors. Obviously, it might be a little bit different in the city, but up here in rural America, where the pinch is really being felt, literally almost 2 times as bad as in the cities or urban areas, because we've been forgotten. We've been written off for the longest time. All of our elected officials seem to have, and this is when you look at their records, just literally the records of attendance to meetings that they're assigned to go to for groups that they're, committees that they're on, and they're supposed to be going to and attending. When you look at their lack of attendance to these meetings, all of a sudden things start to become perfectly clear, while rural America is failing. I will take this as a sampling, but I will apply it to the national upper tier and rural southwestern United States. There are some people, and there's always the exception to the rule, there are some people who take their job seriously, and you will hear from them a complaint about, I just gotta have so much that's laid on me that I have to go to. Welcome to big government. While it doesn't work, that's one of the primary reasons that it doesn't work. You have an elected official to give his or her constituents reasonable representation, and when you go to a state capital to join in the gang, you're assigned whatever committees. You can request them, but if you're a junior member, you probably won't get exactly what you want. Maybe you'll get lucky and you'll chair something, but it'll probably be something that's, I'm going to guess, inconsequential, because the parties, quote unquote, don't know what it is that you're going to do. So they give you this little, litmus test and say, well, we'll put you on this committee and let you chair this. Squeaky door hinge committee. Well, let's call it that for right now. And obviously you don't want to be on there because you did have great dreams when you were walking to your new job that you asked your constituents to send you to. And then you learn all about the Squeaky Hinge Committee and what its job function is. And then you get a stack of papers that says you're on this committee just simply because you're there. So you maybe get another 10 or 15 committees that you have to be on, that you have to go and represent your constituents on. Welcome to the population disparity within the United States. The important committees, economic development, DOT, DNR, some of the other committees that have huge economic impacts strictly because of what the committee might do, you get swayed away from your local constituency concerns and get sucked into the urban, because that's where all the votes are. Anyway, long story short, what happens is you end up supporting programs. You have to support. I mean, you could take a look at them and say, well, I guess, yeah, the people down in urban America, in my state, need this XYZ funded. Well, I don't know if they do or not. But literally, you lose touch with the reasons why you take and run for an office and get elected. The scope is extremely small. Americans' values, their wants and wishes are truly very small. But then you get into the government routine, and you know the existing government. It has to be bigger. And I don't care. This is a nonpartisan statement. Everybody's fighting to control something else in someone's life. And that is not how the Constitution was set up. Ultimately, as it gets bigger and bigger, it creates its own bureaucracy, much like a lot of talk show hosts. You can relate government, bigger government, to talk show successes that kind of come and then go to the back burner. Years ago, when Rush Limbaugh was hitting the airwaves, take any one of them, I don't care whether it's Rush or even if it's Howard Stern. Ultimately, you become obligated to your own agenda. If you say something that doesn't hit well with your advertisers, you're going to take a hit in the pocketbook. Let's get back on track, Jim. All right, we're steering back over here. The story goes that the Eurozone, which is a socialist organization trying to put a group of countries together into an organization that says or thinks that it could compete with the largest economy in the world. Or should I say what used to be the largest economy in the world. America's not anymore. China seems to be leering down at us Americans. But they're feeling the capitalist crunch like the rest of the world. But that said, the Eurozone takes away sovereignty from the countries that join the Eurozone under the guise of, oh, well, we can do better if we join our hands together and sing Kumbaya. And then we'll have extra marketing capability. Well, I'll throw some change into the kitty, and then everybody will share in the kitty marketing. Well, ultimately what happens is exactly what's going on in the Eurozone. And due to the election cycle, and now Hurricane Sandy, and a number of other disasters that continue to crop up, the diversion from by the media away from what's going on in the Eurozone in its financial, I'll leave it up to you to decide, stability or instability. They're not reporting anything that's going on over there. You might get a market report from from Europe, or from Japan or from China, whatever their markets are doing, but they don't talk about the real issues that are going on over there. For the Eurozone as a whole to hit a 90% debt ratio, a debt ratio of 90% of its total economy, is exactly where America is going to go if, in fact, America creates a bigger government, saying, well, we can take care of this. You have to listen very carefully to what the candidates are saying about why they want their jobs. Good morning. I'm having coffee. I don't know about you. And I drink right on the air. I don't care. They constantly say, well, my job, it's government's job to do this. When I get elected, I'm going to do this. When I get elected, I'm going to do that. Well, it all sounds good. But guess what? If and when they get to where they're going, they do exactly what they said they were going to do. Make government bigger. We Americans like to hear that. We like to hear our own special little interest coming to the forefront. Well, yeah, that'd be cool, blah, blah, blah. And ultimately, I suppose it would be cool, but government is not supposed to be doing this. This isn't how America was built. And if we continue to go down this road, we're going to be hitting the same kind of debt ratios that the European Union has, which is not very exciting or promising. The other day, Greece applied for a loan from the euro, and the reason that they wanted the loan was so that they could pay off their debt from their current loan. Now, think about this. Mom and dads that are listening, we have our household budgets, and we overextend ourselves maybe with our credit card. So now we go to the bank and we say, well, we need this consolidation loan so that we can now manage our total monthly bills. The bank may go, well, okay, I guess you can handle this. So they give you this consolidation loan. Now, whether or not you walk over and say to your debtors, well, I'm having a hard time here, so I think I need to reduce my actual debt load. Can you forgive some of this interest money? And we'll try and work off the principal plus XYZ. And most financial institutions that have gone belly up themselves, Citibank, JP Morgan, they're all the boys that control the debt loads, say, well, sure, because they already know you're staying in debt and you're going to pay your bill. You're going to work to pay your bill off. So they just keep tacking more interest on. So they're, well, okay, I guess that was free money anyway, and they've already had a certain percentage of their interest paid to them. So they'll say, you hear these ads on TV that say, well, call us, we can get your debt reduced by 50%, which is probably pretty true. You can get from 35 to 45, 50% is not uncommon if you're going to truly, and it can work if you decide that you're going to cut up your credit cards and you're not going to do that crap anymore. You're going to live on what you make. It's called an austerity program, and that's exactly what's going on over in the euro. But they're now they have a 10% profit margin, and that is not promising, because if, let's say, for instance, you were working on a 10% profit margin on your bills, and you get the flu, and you don't have your health care is not very good, so you have to take 3, 4, or 5 days off of work. What would that do to your monthly budget? It would probably turn it upside down. I don't know of too many people today that could take a week, a month off, and not have it hurt them. Savings depletions, what little, if any, there is. Obviously, lack of a paycheck coming in, so it's almost like a double hit. Long story short is what's going on over there. And this is a bleak literally a very bleak story. And I'll just read it to you. It came in out of my way. In London, we haven't even talked about London yet. We're talking about the euro, and it's Merkel over in Germany who's directing the euro. In spite of years of harsh spending cuts and tax increases, Europeans' debt problems are getting worse. This is socialism. I sum it up all the time when I talk to you guys about this. Socialism means eventually you will run out of their money. And that's what's going on here. You take a look at the food stamp increase. And I'm not saying that there aren't people who need the help. But when a government turns around and raises that kind of percentages in the food stamp program without having a business plan, which is exactly what this guy hasn't. There is no business plan there as he begs for his second term. The guy doesn't know how to run a business. He's never run a business. He was hardly a senator. He got elected to the supposedly the highest office in the world. There is no experience there other than, well, yeah, you're in trouble. Okay, we'll help you. Yep, you're in trouble. We'll help. And we got to go green. Got to invest in this. Got to invest in that. Without having any reasonable basis for making those decisions. Figures from the EU's Statistics Office Wednesday showed that at the end of the second quarter, the total government debt of the 17 countries, and they're really not countries. You join the euro, you lose your sovereignty. That used the single currency was worth 90% of the group's total economic output for the year, the highest level since the euro was launched in 1999. Now, you got to ask yourself, does tenacity overrule good business calls? If in fact, yeah, I guess I could say that if in fact, and I'm surmising this, Merkel doesn't have the proverbial prayer chance in hell of saving the European Union. I think there was a precipice, and she made the choice to try and save the European Union. I think it was probably about 3-4 months ago, probably first quarter of this year. There was a lot of talk in the financial world that Merkel had to make a decision to say, okay, I'm going to save the German economy. This was when Greece wanted to bail out and Spain was thinking about bailing out of the euro. I either have to save Germany, or I have to try and save Germany's economy, or I have to try and save the European Union. She apparently made the decision to go after the European Union because she came up with a new plan. See, now this is what socialists do. People who don't have a clue. When people don't have a clue, they keep coming up with stuff. And you'll hear the rhetoric, much like Pelosi said, well, we don't know what's in this Obamacare bill, but we have to pass it so that we can find out. That's exactly what they do. Socialists do that. So she's came up with the plan. Now, let me just get through this, and then we'll talk about the plan that she now wants to suck the rest of the European into. The rise from the previous quarter's debt to gross domestic product ratio of 88.2% and the previous year's equivalent of 87.1% is a result of the Eurozone's economic problems. Welcome to getting sick and having the flu and not being able to go to work, which are making it harder for countries to handle their debts. Hello, what I just said. The euro economy remains stuck in a rut, says James Ashley, senior European economist at the RBC Capital Markets. According to the Eurostat, 5 of the countries that use the euro are in recession. Greece, Spain, Italy, Portugal, and Cyprus. Many analysts expect the Eurozone to slip back into a recession in the third quarter of the year when officials' figures are published next month. A recession is technically defined as 2 quarters of negative growth in a row. That's an extremely liberal. When you tack on, how many pairs of months do you have to tack on to call it a depression? Other figures Wednesday pointed to deepening economic crisis in the Eurozone. The Purchasing Managers Index, a gauge of business activity from financial information company Market, fell from the previous month's 46.1 to 45.8 in October. Its lowest level in more than 3 years. Anyway, a shrinking economy makes the value of a country's debt as a proportion of the size of its economy worse. Well, we know the basics of economics. You need to produce, you need to sell, and what Merkel is now. Let's go right to this. What Merkel is trying to do right now is to put in, install, or I call it install, because she's directing the euro, and it seems like whatever Merkel wants, Merkel gets. And what she wants to do is install a single person, like a CFO, Chief Financial Officer, to analyze and then approve or deny non-sovereign countries' budgets in order to continue to partake in the European Union. and the money bank, the ECB, the European Central Bank. If this isn't total dictatorship, pure and simple socialism, I don't know what is. This is now the answer, and she's pushing it under the guise of an economic stability program, because these, I don't know what I'll call them, they're states in the European Union. They are not countries. Greece is just a state within the European Union. There in France, I mean, you've got a hard socialist elected as president in France. Welcome to the story. Sitting back here, Peugeot gets a government rescue as its financial crisis deepens. Everybody's running out of everybody else's money. So now Merkel wants to start a new banking trust account, begging the profitable states, Netherlands, Great Britain, but Great Britain's in deep doo-doo because, and I predicted this prior to the Olympics, they will not be able to pay the bill for the dog and pony show that happened for the Olympics over there in Great Britain. From security matters that Mitt Romney, people, Mitt, you open your mouth, you blew it. No, Mitt Romney was right on the nuts, because at the time when, if everybody remembers, Mitt Romney asked the prime minister, I think over there, are you really prepared to have the Olympics here? Well, the G4 company that was hired to provide security personnel for the Olympians in all the venues and stage areas had a contract for 11,000 some odd people to put on the security uniforms. And it was 1 week before the Olympics. He's in America on vacation, the guy that's running the company. And he makes this call and says, well, sorry, guys, we only have about 4,000 people. That was also the same week that some 70-year-old nun walks around in a uranium-enriching plant in the northeast part of the country for 2 hours without being noticed. 3 activists broke in, cut the fence or climbed the fence, whatever it was, got as far as the buildings, and not one security person in that complex saw them. It reflects also backwards to the guy on the jet ski who swam to the airport and broke through the airport on this multi-billion-dollar security system. Nobody saw him. So we haven't even talked. Great Britain hasn't even popped in, but they're in a financial crunch too. So they're hesitant to say, let's dump some more money into this new thing to see if it works. The only way it's going to work is if you have a dictator that says, sorry, that's all you're going to get. But it hasn't happened yet, has it? There's bailout after bailout. There's crisis after crisis. And while everybody is spending their time and energy dumping money, good money, after bad money, where is the time spent in any kind of thought process and actions to turn the economy around? Well, I mean, we have no control over it, but yet you turn around and say, well, my job is to get jobs. What are you doing to get the jobs? Not what you're going to do. You can say you're going to do anything in the world. What are you doing to turn the economy physically around? Which kind of brings to mind a poll that came out, 2-3 months ago, when everybody was starting to talk, well, what's your goal, Mitt and Brock? What's your plan? Well, the plan was to get 12 million new jobs. They both laid claims to that number. And the reason that they both did, and they're both right. This is the Truth Network, dose of reality. The truth is, no matter who is president, if, and that's the key word, if we have an economic turnaround of any significance, we will have 12 million additional people going back to work, re-entering the workforce, or entering the workforce. Now, of that, I think almost 5 million of it is people that are still out of work, or that had left work, been laid off, displaced. So but the fact remains that no matter who is president over the next 4 years, with an optimistic outlook, and Americans are optimistic, we're going to have an additional 12 million jobs on the table. So that's really a moot point. It's a matter of what kind of jobs. Now, if you take a look at the economic stance that Barack wants, he wants to go into this, and we had that happen in Wisconsin. We had a company that was going to come in and make, I forgot how many jobs it was. It was a number of thousands of jobs, building solar panels. The company had trouble getting state funding, either through the EPA, I don't remember what the particulars were, but they couldn't get, it was in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. And it would have been a good thing. The problem was that they were not sustaining jobs. These were manufacturing jobs, probably a reasonably healthy family-paying, sustaining job, but the jobs were not sustaining. You couldn't continue to build the number of panels that they were going to start off with once a market was saturated. It wasn't happening. And that was part, I believe, of the bond issue, that they couldn't raise the bond money to actually get the plant up and running. And then you've got, y'all know, I'm not going to retell the story of all the companies that have gone bankrupt that this current administration has invested in. And I'm not ever going to say that that the wannabe administration couldn't, and maybe won't make bad choices at some point. But because of a business experience that comes with a wannabe administration, I'm thinking that the standards would be quite a bit more stringent and have a little more heads up in them than the current administration. And with that, you got Just Jim in the Morning on WPEG.net, your dose of reality network. WPEG.net, your local PEG programming content provider. We provide programming in public, education, and government programming for you, our listeners, a listener-supported station. Don't forget, support our underwriters, because they're the ones who care enough to bring you this program. At Hode Gun and Loan, you'll find one of the largest selections of new and used guns in the Northwoods. Beretta, Ruger, and Springfield Armory, rifles, pistols, and black powder. At Hode Gun and Loan, your gun and ammo needs are covered. We buy gold and jewelry too, and right now we're paying the highest prices in the Northwoods for your gold. Located at 915 Lincoln Street in... Support our underwriters. After all, they're the ones that keep us bringing this program to you. Are you ready for digital TV? Dave's TV is. Do you know what you need? Do you have what you need to watch the new digital TV signals? We've been installing antennas and satellite dishes for the past 25 years. From city installations to hunting shacks in the woods, from rabbit ears to 300-foot towers, we've seen it all. No job is too big or too small. Call Dave's TV and Satellite today at 715-362-3001. That's Dave's TV, 362-3000. WPEG.net television network is your PEG content provider in Wisconsin's Northwoods. Public, education, and government programming content is what we do. From city meetings to school board meetings and all points in between, you can count on WPEG.net to deliver the news of your elected officials to you. With WPEG's television network working for your community, you don't have to miss another government meeting or an important school board presentation. We deliver directly to your living room and computer. Tell your city officials that you want to know what they're doing. After all, that's why you elected them. Let your elected officials know that you want WPEG.net television network on your community cable television system today. Call 715-490-2300 or 490-2303 and tell us what you think. Or you can send us an email at pegnews@wpeg.net. WPEG is a listener-supported station. Do you need a safe and secure place to keep your personal property? Do you want 24-hour lit access to your mini warehouse? Do you want your own lock on your storage unit? Conveniently located at 1647 Menominee Drive in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, Cedarwood Mini Warehousing has exactly what you're looking for in short and long-term storage units. With nearly 200 storage units that provide safe and secure storage for your personal property, Cedarwood Mini Warehousing and Storage will meet all your storage needs with their short-term and long-term rental contracts. Storage units come in sizes from 4 to 6 foot to 12 by 16 for your large personal and household items. For a limited time, get 1 month free with a 6-month paid rental contract. Call 715-366-2260 today to see about availability and current monthly specials. From big to small, we store it all. Call 715-366-2260 today. Prices subject to availability and rental contract. WPEG.net, your local PEG programming content provider. We provide programming in public, education, and government programming for you, our listeners. A listener-supported station. Don't forget, support our underwriters, because they're the ones who care enough to bring you this program. Welcome back, Patriots. Oh, and you wood ticks, too. We can't forget about you guys. Absolutely not. Anyway, just Jim in the morning here on WPG. We were talking about the European Union, and Peugeot gets a government rescue as the crisis deepens, meaning exactly the overlay that we just talked about on the European Union. And you have to ask yourself, how the heck does Peugeot get a bailout? Well, and it's kind of it's interesting in its own little way. They get the bailout. I call it a bailout. They get a rescue, whatever the word is. Merely because Ford has decided, I believe, to close 7 plants in the European Union. At the same time they did that, they partnered up with Peugeot to get a new product to market. Peugeot is scrapping 10,000 jobs. Oh, which is, I mean, that is a lot of work not being done. I'm sorry, they're partnering with General Motors, Government Motors, GM, to deliver more savings in 5 years' time. Now, while this is all going on, Ford, I believe, also that was a correct statement. They were close. I think it's 7 plants in the Euro. Japan has vehicles stacked in the dockyards and the shipyards because the European Union and China are not buying their cars. They got no place to send them. And in the middle of this, BMW is now running away from Germany and opening a new plant in, guess where? Argentina. And isn't that where our next Olympics is going? Does it sound? Are you enamored by the fact that the Olympics are going to Argentina? They can put on a good party, no doubt about it. But take a look at the subculture in Argentina and the financial stability, quote unquote, of Argentina. I'm for one not real happy that that's where we're going. Not at all. But it's they've made the decision to go. So, with that thought in mind, I find it really hard to swallow the fact that these bailouts continue when you're losing jobs at 10,000 jobs. 10,000 workers are going to be out. Yeah, well, here's the sub-note. Ford Motor will close a factory in Belgium employing 4,300 workers. So there's 14,300 workers out of work between these two moves, and they're getting a bailout. And the rationale by the socialists are going to be, no company's too big to fail. They're too big to fail because if you didn't lose 10,000 jobs and they went bankrupt and they went out of business, you'd lose 75,000 jobs. Well, I don't have an argument for that, but short term, the austerity programs may work, they may not, but apparently the European Union's out of money. So who do they turn to and what do they do? See, that's the question that Americans don't ask. And those are very, very, very important questions that need to be answered. When you're out of money, what do you do? The result is not very appealing. But enough of that. It'll happen or it won't. This old boy don't have the ability to change that. You guys don't either. But maybe some of you do. Shore up your local elections is what my advice is. Know the people that are running for begging for your job. It used to be running for office. Politics has changed. Nobody runs for an office anymore. Man, they beg for it. And my conservative friends, sorry, but I see it happening. You're forced at a state senator level or even an assembly person's job in government to spend 10 times what your salary is. This is from the get-go, that's a bad business move. Okay, so you get your pensions and this, that, and the other thing, which I think is out of line. You ask any average citizen, if you get one term in Congress or Senate, do you deserve your retirement package you get? I mean, I spend that kind of money to get it too, I guess, in the long run, if you can rationalize it out cost analyze it out over XYZ years. But that is not what has built America. I'm telling you, we are so far down the wrong path right now. You need to start showing up local. I'm talking town elections. Good people are going to have to find the time in their lives to actually get into a political job, even if it's just short term, 1-2 year term somewhere, sitting on a town board or a town council or whatever it is. Good people, patriots, are going to have to get up off their butts and do a second part-time job. If you've already got 2 part-time jobs or a full-time job and a part-time job, you're going to have to add another job because you have to take your local government back into the arms of we the people. It is out of line. It's skewed. Don't forget, we're 6 days out. And if you don't know what's going on and you're listening to me, you better be spending your money. Well, I got to go right to this article that I got today. Headline, "This race is over." And I can so call the ambulance on this one. This is by Eric Erickson, a diary. November 1st at 4:30 in the morning. What the heck is a guy doing up blogging, writing in his diary online at 4:30 in the morning? Shouldn't we be sleeping? No. America's in trouble. Patriots get up in the morning, tackle an extra thing, and have at it. But the article is right on target, I think. So we're less than a week away from the election. At this point, I just want it over. I want my life back. I'm worn out. I am struggling to still care now that I have cast my absentee ballot. How many of you people have gone out and voted early? I know more people who have taken advantage of that voting process than I have ever in my entire life heard of. I'm befuddled by. I understand the rationale of it, and I guess I told somebody, a friend of mine, that, well, why don't you do that? Because it's going to be hard to get away from work, or you got to go in late, and blah blah blah. She goes, "Nope, I'm going to the polls." And we're expecting lines at the polls. I could only hope that we have a 90 to 99%, hell, 100% voter participation. How do you patriots feel about that? You have to relish the thought. I know that this old boy does, because that is why the process is there, for the citizens to take and make use of it. That would just I can't say that I wouldn't care how the elections turned out. But if we were to reach 90% participation in the election process, my heart would go pitter-patter. I might go on a week's drunk. Nah. Shoot that idea down. But that would be absolutely marvelous if 90% of the eligible voters went to the polls. And then, of course, my qualifying statement would have to be that they knew what the hell they were voting about and who they were voting for. But I'll settle for the highest record-making turnout with this election. Now, but let's get back to this little note here. I take pride to try to be number one at the poll in my little Lake Wish I Be Gone township. And sometimes I pull it off, and I don't know if I'll be able to this year. I think most Americans feel that way. The people of Ohio and Florida are begging for a return to TV ads for male enhancement drugs and self-lubricating catheters. Oh, ain't that the truth? Isn't that the truth, though? Right now, according to a Fox News poll, the race is tied. A National Journal poll has Obama up by 5. A Rasmussen poll has Romney up by 2. Nobody really knows who the hell is ahead. That was my commentary there. I think Romney is. My Democratic friends think Obama is. And privately, the whispers in the aisle, everyone concedes that they really don't know. Well, I take that back. Here, if you're watching on a TV channel, we do know who won the election. There you go. That came out of Phoenix, Arizona the other day. Last week, I think it was. During the People's Court. This is off the blog now. The People's Court had Obama winning the election at 43 million and Romney coming in with 38 million, with 99% of the precincts reporting. So, I guess we do know. This is President Nationwide. Precincts reporting 99%. This actually did happen. So, during the People's Court, we saw a sneak preview of what's going on. So anybody who wasn't paying attention or didn't get the Phoenix TV channel, it's like, wow. At this point, I have a hard time believing undecided voters are going to vote. And this is truly, I think, a good dose of reality right there, that sentence. I think anybody who's followed much of the political fever over the last few months from both sides of the aisle, and I find myself saying that, and how un-American is that on both sides of the aisle? We have more than two aisles on both sides. We have more than one aisle with two sides. But an aisle will have two sides. That I believe is one of the biggest speed bumps in American politics. The inability to have multiple parties have an even playing field at trying to get elected for an office. Democrat, conservative, or liberal, Republican, libertarian. Libertarianism has become almost a third party now. But in real life, this is a two-party system. But that sentence, at this point, I have a hard time believing undecided voters are going to vote at all. The die is cast. There is little more either side can do to shift voters. Right now, it's all about turning out the vote, not persuading people. And that is absolutely true, part of what I just said, to have an unbelievably high participation in the system. There is worry among a lot of Republicans who spend too much time on Twitter that somehow Hurricane Sandy and Chris Christie have shifted momentum in the race back to Barack Obama. Now, I got to ask the question, why is it that Chris Christie is now showing up as a partner with Barack Obama? thought he was a Republican. Welcome to what I've been preaching all along. You betcha. Well, as old Chris goes out there and he goes, I don't give a damn about the presidential election. I'm here. I got bigger fish to fry. Well, Chris, raise the flag for our drug addict who died and put the flag at half-mast. You're a rhino, buddy. So what? Have shifted it back into Barack Obama's court. I don't think so. I think Romney has a ton of independent voters. While I don't think he will win Pennsylvania, I think those Democrat voters who decide to ignore Barack Obama on the Democratic Party ballot earlier this year are a bigger problem that has been overlooked nationwide. The cross-party voters who, in primaries, come out and cast ballots that they never would cast for an opposing partner that they think that they can beat in a final election. A lot of Democrats may not vote for Mitt Romney, but they may sit it out for Barack Obama. Gallup, Pew, and other pollsters show Republicans doing very well in early voting, better than 2008 and better than Obama in many cases. Several pollsters, including Gallup, predict a higher Republican turnout than a Democratic turnout. If Republicans and Democrats are within 3 points of each other in turnout, and Mitt Romney is winning independent voters by double digits, which he is, just relax and go vote. The fat lady is warming up her vocals. Harness the uneasy feeling and participate in phone banking. Come what may, we're almost there. I would tend to agree, and this is a gentleman that I subscribe to his posts. I read a lot of his stuff tongue-in-cheek, but this is truly, I think, a great perspective of where we are today. And I think that some of the most, if not all, of the groups who have been extremely active in trying to get out the vote, True the Vote, AFP, a lot of these groups are now taking that sigh, understanding there's still work to do. So your phones will keep ringing for another few days, but and your TV will be inundated with crap commercials. So we just grin and bear it. Try and if you're a channel surfer like I am, it doesn't matter where you go. Once they start, they're 3-4 deep. So get up, go to the bathroom, make a cup of coffee. Oh, which reminds me, Prost. Good stuff. And I guess I did this with the recall election. I kind of fell into the same mentality of thinking with Governor Walker's recall election, that you've done what you can do, you've done the best with what you have, and I liken at this stage of the game the political world to be much like my production world. That when we make a program or a television commercial or something for someone, that you have to, and it took me a long time, I still don't believe it entirely, I don't act it, but I believe it, that at some point the project, whatever it may be, has a life of its own. You need to cut the umbilical cord and you need to let it grow or die. And it's hard as someone who cares and puts energy into something and wants to make it the best that they can make it. And I know a lot of people who are those type of political activists. They truly do believe, and this goes for Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals, patriots included. The deeper thinking moments are probably past. They probably were never reached like they should have been reached, simply because of the fervor and fever of the opponents, whatever the opposing view may be. But true enough, I do think that, yes, the race is over. The fight's not over by any means. But this particular race, as at a week out, away from the election, is pretty much said and done. I tend to wholeheartedly agree with it. If there are people who enter into the I'm sure you've heard them all. They go blah, 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 and blah, 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 and they got all these things, and they actually never go vote. But they have an opinion on everything. With that, the immediate part of that post has to reflect directly over to this. And I wasn't going to talk about this till the second hour, but we're in the second hour. Wow, look at this. Coming off the Hill, I don't know if any of you followed this. I haven't gone and found the truth meter on this one either, so I'll talk about this with slight tongue-in-cheek, but I've had some tentative verification that it will be happening, even in Wisconsin. I've heard Madison will be the target city, and I don't know why Madison would be the city that these yutzes would go to, but this coming out of on the 25th, a few days ago, out of the Hill Global Affairs Department, Texas authorities have threatened to arrest international election observers. Now you would say, well, why would that be? Well, I'm here to tell you why it would be. Through the NAACP and the Civil Liberties Union, there has been some requests to have, where are we? If you're over on the TV side, as soon as I find it, there it is right there. To have UN poll observers enter the United States and go to polling places to keep an eye on our elections, which prompted the governor of the state of Texas, the Lone Star State, to issue this statement. The threat of criminal sanctions against international, in parentheses, observers is unacceptable. Juanez Lenarch, the director of OSCE, Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights, said in a statement, quote unquote, the United States, like all countries in the OSCE, has an obligation to invite an obligation. You know, you can kiss my American ass. I don't have an obligation to do a damn thing other than be an American. Has an obligation to invite ODIHR observers to observe its elections. Lawmakers from the group of 56 European and Central Asian nations have been observing U.S. elections since 2002 without incident. Their presence has become a flashpoint this year. However, as Republicans accuse Democrats of voter fraud, while Democrats counter the GOP-inspired voter ID laws aimed to disenfranchise minority voters. They have yet to really explain that. I have yet to hear a rational explanation of why a voter ID that is being given, manufactured, and given at no cost to minorities would actually disenfranchise a voter. When the government wants to have their nose in everybody's business to the depths, well, should I say the anal depths that they do, why would a card with your picture on it? I mean, some people say that this is the predecessor to the serial number being tattooed on your arm. And for you youngsters that don't get that parallel, maybe you ought to read your history book. Or maybe you have read your history book and it's been taken out of the history book. Not a pleasant time in world history. Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott further fueled the controversy on Tuesday when he sent a letter to the OSCE warning the organization that its representatives, quote, are not authorized by Texas law to enter a polling place, end quote, and that it, quote, may be a criminal offense for OSCE's representatives to maintain a presence within 100 feet of a polling place's entrance, end quote. Gotta love those Texans down there. The letter goes on to accuse the group of having met with liberal organizations that oppose voter ID laws. Where's our governor? Wisconsin. Scott? Schiller, if you're listening, go talk to Scott. We need to get this done. We need to get our sovereignty statement as a state, reaffirmation of a sovereign state needs to be put together ASAP for the state of Wisconsin. We allow our current commander, the head village idiot, to steal our state motto, forward. That offends me personally. It's my motto, too. And I don't think that son of a basket weaver is going anywhere. The OSCE put out an interim report last week saying that, quote unquote, recent state-level legislative initiatives to limit early voting and introduce stricter voter identification have become highly polarized. So what? What business is it of yours what this country does? Hello, all you socialist friends out there. Do I have any? This is a warning call. The OSCE may be entitled to its opinions about voter ID laws, but your opinion is legally irrelevant in the United States of America, where the Supreme Court has already determined that voter ID laws are constitutional, quote unquote. Abbott writes, if OSCE members want to learn more about our election process so they can improve their own democratic systems, we welcome the opportunity to discuss the measures Texas has implemented to protect the integrity of elections. However, groups and individuals from outside the United States are not allowed to influence or interfere with the election process in Texas. Scott, come on. Come on, wake up, Scott. Huh? Come on. J.B. Van Hollen, where are you? Wake up. We got a lead going here. Somebody's taking the lead. And it's not illegal to follow. Not at all. Not when you're going down a patriotic road. Texas Governor Rick Perry, Republican, also weighed in tweeting, quote, no UN monitors. Inspectors will be part of any Texas election process. I commend. Whoa, we got a call on the hotline here. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Hang on. Coming in. Good morning, WPEG. You have the Just Jim Show. Hello? Where are we? Hello? Well, I guess that was interesting. Go lay down, Riley. My pup is down here now. Welcome to the bunker. Anything can happen at the bunker. And that just didn't work, did it? Nope. That just did not work. Why not? Why didn't that work? 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. I have a defective piece of equipment here. Sorry about that. You could have been pulled by the NRA then. So anyways, in letters to Abbott and the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, whose State Department invited the 44 election observers. Did you get that, folks? Hello? Did you get that? Secretary of State Hillary Clinton requested these vidiots, these village idiots. He reiterated that the group is only there to observe the elections. Quote unquote, our observers are required to remain strictly impartial and to not intervene in the voting process in any way. They are in the United States to observe these elections, not to interfere with them, end quote. State Department spokesman Victoria Nuland sought to tone down the controversy during her briefing Thursday. That would have been last week. The department is eager to avoid giving the impression that the United States is unwilling to submit to the same scrutiny it demands of others when it comes to human and civil rights. Since the initial issue with Texas, we've received a letter, both for Secretary Clinton and one for Texas authorities, from the OSCE, assuring us that Texas authorities, us and Texas authorities, that the OSCE observers are committed to following all U.S. laws and regulations. Therefore, if it's truly a law and regulation, they ain't going in a polling place in Texas. To my knowledge, Texas is the only state that came forward and said, please reassure us you're going to follow our state electoral law. And they have now been reassured. Oh, isn't that comforting? Aren't all you patriots out there comforted? Oh, I'm going to sleep so good tonight with this banter of politically correct crap. How come my bell is dong today? Something must be hitting it. I find that to be a somewhat refreshing banter. But the underlying issue remains. Do we as Americans... Riley, stop licking. Got a problem with my dog licking here all the time. I think she's got some issues. Excuse me. And this is just throwing this out, just saying... Is America pompous in its not wanting to have outside sources view our elections? Are we really that sure that we're not doing something we shouldn't be doing in this process? As I always say, it isn't so much that we do something. It is always how we go about doing it. It is always the process that is sacred. And with that said, we got Just Jim in the Morning. WPEG.net, your dose of reality network. WPEG.net, your local PEG programming content provider. We provide programming in public, education, and government programming for you, our listeners. A listener-supported station. Don't forget, support our underwriters, because they're the ones who care enough to bring you this program. At Hodag Gun & Loan, you'll find one of the largest selections of new and used guns in the Northwoods. Beretta, Ruger, and Springfield Armory, rifles, pistols, and black powder. At Hodag Gun & Loan, your gun and ammo needs are covered. We buy gold and jewelry too, and right now we're paying the highest prices in the Northwoods for your gold. Located at 915 Lincoln Street in... Support our underwriters. After all, they're the ones that keep us bringing this program to you. Are you ready for digital TV? Dave's TV is. Do you know what you need? Do you have what you need to watch the new digital TV signals? We've been installing antennas and satellite dishes for the past 25 years. From city installations to hunting shacks in the woods, from rabbit ears to 300-foot towers, we've seen it all. No job is too big or too small. Call Dave's TV and Satellite today at 715-362-3001. That's Dave's TV, 362-3000. WPEG.net Television Network is your PEG content provider in Wisconsin's Northwoods. Public, education, and government programming content is what we do. From city meetings to school board meetings and all points in between, you can count on WPEG.net to deliver the news of your elected officials to you. With WPEG's television network working for your community, you don't have to miss another government meeting or an important school board presentation. We deliver directly to your living room and computer. Tell your city officials that you want to know what they're doing. After all, that's why you elected them. Let your elected officials know that you want WPEG.net television network on your community cable television system today. Call 715-490-2300 or 490-2303 and tell us what you think. Or you can send us an email at pegnews@wpeg.net. WPEG is a listener-supported station. Do you need a safe and secure place to keep your personal property? Do you want 24-hour lit access to your mini warehouse? Do you want your own lock on your storage unit? Conveniently located at 1647 Menominee Drive in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, Cedarwood Mini Warehousing has exactly what you're looking for in short and long-term storage units. With nearly 200 storage units that provide safe and secure storage for your personal property, Cedarwood Mini Warehousing and Storage will meet all your storage needs with their short-term and long-term rental contracts. Storage units come in sizes from 4 to 6 foot to 12 by 16 for your large personal and household items. For a limited time, get 1 month free with a 6-month paid rental contract. Call 715-366-2260 today to see about availability and current monthly specials. From big to small, we store it all. Call 715-366-2260 today. Prices subject to availability and rental contract. WPEG.net, your local PEG programming content provider. We provide programming in public, education, and government programming for you, our listeners. A listener-supported station. Don't forget, support our underwriters. They're the ones who care enough to bring you this program.
It is just wonderful to be back in Oregon, and over the last 15 months we've traveled to every corner of the United States. I've now been in 57 states. I think one left to go. Alaska and Hawaii I was not allowed to go to, even though I really wanted to visit.
Everything that guy just says is bullshit.
Somebody didn't tell you when you need to shut up.
I actually want to thank you because you remind me of why I don't like people.
Yeah, there are times you just don't like people. I'm telling you. That's right. I didn't make that up. I did not edit that together. He actually said that 4 years ago on the campaign trail. Barack Hussein Obama said he'd been to 57 states. Hell, my granddaughter could win the presidency. She knows more than he does, obviously. On the light side here today, we got a couple of, we always put out jokes here. You know, we're always joking around. Hell, the show's a joke, right? There are some signs that go out in front of the churches, or on the bulletins. They get turned in once in a while, and this is funny stuff. The 8th graders will be presenting Shakespeare's Hamlet in the church basement Friday night at 7 p.m. The congregation is invited to attend this tragedy. The associate minister unveiled the church's new tithing campaign slogan last Sunday. I upped my pledge, up yours. Our next song is Angels We Have Heard Get High. Oh, yeah. There are 3 kinds of people in this world. Those that can count and those that can't. Huh? 2 roadies were moving the cart of amps and drum cases in order to load them back onto the tour truck. The singer came by and said, "You should push the cart instead of pulling it. It's a lot easier." So the roadies turned around and started pushing the cart. The one said to the other one, "This is a lot easier." The other one replied, "Yeah, but we're getting further away from the truck." Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. That one sounds like an old one that somebody just made up. Hey, what do you think of that? We have to laugh at each other. There are some things you just can't laugh about, but on an easier note, I guess I got to talk about this. It's been bugging me, and I'm not. Again, it's searching the truth out, and I don't know that it will ever come out now. That our head village idiot has decided that all these records need to be closed, but there's enough cries going on for information on the Benghazi affair that I think at some point something might happen on this, but time will tell, right? So, anyways, we are going to talk about it. The out of the Tea Party Tribune comes this little note. This came out, I think, Monday or Tuesday, 29th. Oh, sorry. Surrounding the events of September 11th, 2012, in Benghazi. For those of you that may have forgotten this. After numerous flips and flops by the Obama administration, which originally attempted to paint the incident as a Muslim outcry over an anti-Islamic video. I got to stop right there and make my little personal ditty on this one. From the moment I heard this, that this was an aftermath of a video that was made, I immediately, I don't know that I drew another breath without saying and being firmly convinced that this was a start of a cover-up. There is no way that these ragheads would have seen this video. I know some of them are online. I mean, they don't have anything else than a couple of camels and a couple of sandcastles. Some of them get online. They got satellite phones and all that crap. But to the degree that this happened around, that incidences happened around the world on 9/11, the anniversary. Hello, people. Anybody listening in the White House? This one doesn't take. This is not a rocket science case study. As we're out honoring those that died in 9/11 and helping Americans make sure that they never forget those people, as well as our troops who have served our country. This thing shows up and they blame some video. Have any of you, I don't know if any of you have seen this thing. I searched it out. I think it's over on YouTube, unless they pulled it off. I don't know. I haven't gone back to watch it. It wasn't worth going back to watch again. You know, you watch 2 seconds, 2 minutes of it, and you'll know exactly what's going on. But I don't get. I shouldn't say that. I do get. I know the reason why this whole flip-flop come on, girl, is going on. If you remember what your moms and dads told you as you're growing up, maybe you learned it yourself. Once you tell a lie, a fib, a gray truth, it rose by any other name, it gets harder and harder and harder to remember what that first story was as you elaborate on it. And then you interject the next variable that says you have an administration of people that need to speak or are sought out to make comments on something that happened. Some know the truth. Some only know what the first lie was, or gray. I'm calling it a lie, but it's a rose by any other name. So it's very hard to not compound the problems. Hence, it turns up as a flip-flop. Stories change. Not necessarily for the better. Whistleblowers throughout the United States government, including the White House, the State Department, national intelligence agencies, and the U.S. military, have made available stunning details that suggest that not only did operational commanders have live visual and audio communications from drones overhead and intelligence assets on the ground, but that some commanders within the military were prepared to go it alone after being told to stand down. commanding officer, U.S. General Carter Ham, after being ordered to essentially surrender control of the situation to alleged al-Qaeda terrorists and let Americans on the ground die, made the unilateral decision to ignore orders from the Secretary of Defense, Mr. Panetta, and activated special operations teams at his disposal for immediate deployment to the area. According to reports, and there are some hot links here that I just didn't follow. Once the general went rogue, quote unquote, he was arrested within minutes by his second in command and relieved of duty. Quote, parentheses, the, end parentheses, basic principle is that you don't deploy forces in harm's way without knowing what's going on, without having some real-time information about what's taking place, Panetta told Pentagon reporters. Quote, and as a result of not having that kind of information, the commander, who was on the ground in that area, General Ham, General Dempsey and I felt very strongly that we could not put forces at risk in that situation, end quote. The information I heard today was that General Ham, as head of AFRICOM, received the same emails the White House received requesting help support as the attack was taking place. General Ham immediately had a rapid response unit ready and communicated to the Pentagon that he had a unit ready. General Ham then received the order to stand down. His response was to screw it. He was going to help anyhow. Within 30 seconds to a minute after making the move to respond, his second-in-command apprehended General Ham and told him that he was now relieved of his command. At this point, I'm going to break away from this report. There are links across the board on this thing. You go over to the teapartytribune.com, and this will be there. October 29th was the story. It was released. Last night, the head village idiot stood in Sandy's wake and made the totally asinine statement to the American people that we leave no one behind. I so want to drop the F-bomb on him. That is one of the most obscene statements I have ever heard come out of the mouth of an elected official as it pertains to citizens serving this country on foreign land. That was such a disgusting comment. To say to hurricane victims, we reassure them that we leave no one behind, not less than 2 months after he ordered generals to stand down as they sat with drone video and cell phone video of an attack on our personnel on sovereign territory. Do you listeners really understand the severity of that mentality? I'm not a doctor, but I play a good one on the radio. But I'm thinking there's some bipolarism going on. We already know there's polarism in the political arena. I don't care what decade we're in. A commander-in-chief who runs around and touts that flag tells hurricane victims we leave no one behind after the Benghazi fiasco. Now, there's rumors running around that there may have been, quote-unquote, more gun running going on in that environment. There may be documents that could not have been recovered by certain people. Typical rhetoric. And there's a part of me that says I understand when someone takes an assignment in a very hot area, though this ambassador apparently had some very good relationships, I'd say entrenched in that community. For whatever reason, they fell apart at the last minute. And when you look at the military presence that came down on our embassy, and you young listeners need to understand this, and this is where patriots have fallen desperately short of their goals. We have failed to teach and hold sacred those terms and conditions that define simple things like sovereignty of an embassy. It is not, that compound does not belong to the Libyan people. It belongs to U.S. sovereignty government and the people that are in there. That is what an ambassador and an embassy is all about. Once that attack started, it was an attack on U.S. soil. That is an act of war, as defined by the Constitution of the United States of America. My Constitution, your Constitution, but apparently not our village idiot's Constitution. And as far as Panetta goes, son, this guy has a track record that is absolutely ludicrous. Afghanistan Air Base, example. Orders Marines to disarm because fellow Afghan troops are being disarmed during a visit that he made there. That was the visit where some car ran out on a tarmac as his plane was supposed to be landing and it went awry and didn't get the job done, didn't blow up or didn't do whatever it was supposed to do. Don't know. Don't care. But ordering Marines to be disarmed on a U.S. military base in a country like Afghanistan to show respect for fellow Afghan troops? I don't know too many Marines that obey those orders. This is where we have gone wrong, totally wrong. We have forgotten how to stand up for what America is. And this now to be classified information under executive order is one of the most ludicrous things. To stand there September 11th. We're closing in on 3 months, 2.5 months after the Benghazi affair, to have a president stand and go blah, 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 we leave no one behind. Do you understand where the distrust, the dislike, and I'm being very politically correct here with these terms, they show nowhere near what the true emotional feeling is of putting these two incidences together, along with a track record. If you're on the TV channel, pay attention. This is the same guy that says we leave no one behind after he did. He leans over to a Russian diplomat and says, "This is my last election," Obama observed. "After my election, I'll have more flexibility." You understand when the leader of the free world bows down to foreign dignitaries, assumes a submissive stance to a sheik. There's supposed to be respect by citizens towards that administration. Or the administration that walks guns across the border to drug cartels. We'll see where they show up. They show up sticking in the back of one of our U.S. Border Patrol agents. People, welcome, wow. You can hear my frustration. I don't know what I did with it. I thought I printed it out. Maybe I didn't. It got away from me. And whatever. And I've said this a number of times that we have become so wrapped up in the presidency that we forget that if we have senators and congressmen who have balls, some cojones, some spine, some backbone, that understand the Constitution that says there's 3 branches of government, not to be intermingled, not to be overstepped, that had we had a Congress and a senator, a House and a Senate that had those simple things, some cojones, to demand that the president stay in his realm and not supersede through executive orders, who continues to chase after a rogue president, instead of checking that administration. We would not be in part of the mess that we're in. The congressional and Senate races that are going on are far more important from a patriotic standpoint than the presidency. Obvious that I don't want this Yutz to get reelected. It is not in the best interest of my America. Most of the people I know, it's not in their best interest. The greatest failure we've had in gun violence is known as Fast and Furious. Mitt Romney, you are so... Go on a TV channel. I got a great picture. That old Barack is bent over almost far enough to... I can't go there. But he's absolutely correct. And we leave no one behind. Oh, God. This Yutz. Emails after department heads acknowledging through their communications they knew that Fast and Furious was going on. The Benghazi affair is exactly the secondary repercussion of this. Is just an ongoing debacle. We as Americans are in deep doo-doo. Incident after incident, and during the debates, if you look on a TV channel, lower right-hand corner, it is the First Lady. There are rules and regulations. Everybody in the room is following these rules and regulations. Their hands are in their laps. There's nothing going on except, I'll show you a close-up in a second, for the First Lady, she doesn't have to follow the rules of the debate. No clapping, no laughing, no applauding, no this, no that. Just shut up, let these 2 yutzes go at it. What does she do? She starts clapping. Got that big shit-eating grin on her face. Okay. There's a quarter. Well, I'm the First Lady. I don't have to follow the rules. I can just instigate a clapping applause thing. Because it benefited my husband, the village idiot. What direction is there that this administration is taking? There is no leadership. Go to Webster's Dictionary, go to Wikipedia, go wherever you want. There is zero leadership coming out of anything in this administration. We will leave no one behind. Borrow an honorable statement. Borrow a statement that dictates a way of life and a mentality, and apply it to this. While Benghazi, Fast and Furious, go unchecked in our country. Ay. And the liberals just jump on board. Sally Cohn on Twitter. Dear conservatives, no one gives a shit about Fast and Furious. Manufactured issue. It was a mistake and was resolved. I sincerely don't believe that resolution comes anywhere close to what happened or is happening with this. And then you wonder, then my conservative friends wonder why I don't carry a conservative card. I carry a patriotic card. This is the result of where we are today. A donkey's ass and an elephant's ass sitting in the air, and it's about time we, the people, bring them back to where they need to be in the scheme of what is going on in America today. And it's not going to be easy. We've been remiss in our duties. Empty chair conferences and all. And that's never. I can't. I just get so frustrated. Even trying to think of a cognizant way to talk about this. The question is now whether the American people will hold to account the claim of command responsible for leaving our people behind, fabricating a politically expedient story, and continuing to sell the now defunct lies even after all the variations of the story were found to be false and misleading. A general who made the decision to assist diplomatic and intelligence assets on the ground has been arrested and will likely retire or worse, while those who ordered the removal of the embassy security details and ordered U.S. forces to stand down are left to go on about their merry way and likely risk more American lives in the future. In some circles, the actions of those at the very top command structure during Benghazi attacks would be considered traitorous. This was contributed by Frank Dover of the Daily Sheeple, an alternative media hub for leading headlines, opinions, and commentary. Wake the flock up. This content may be freely redistributed, reproduced in full or in part in digital form with full attribution to the author and the link below, thedailysheeple.com. You understand what's going on, people, sheeple? This fight is not over. It doesn't end with the election. It's either going to have to continue at a sustained pace, or it is actually going to have to be escalated, depending upon the outcome of the elections, not just one election. People got to understand that. And you got to understand that you have to be in the face of those who claim to want these jobs. Out of the blaze comes Portman demands answers on Benghazi scandal, denounces unbelievable White House reaction. Which is true, unbelievable. And then to have this statement yesterday down in Sandy's wake, we will leave no one behind. How effing dare you? With the story of the run-up and aftermath of the Benghazi assault becoming even more murky and questions continue to pile up over the Obama administration's handling of those attacks, Fox News Sunday offered a study and contrast between the two parties' approach on the issue. Well, and this without... I find fault with this, but it's, hit the headlines. In contrast, Senator Rob Portman, Republican of Ohio, known in press circles as a man who toughened up Mitt Romney in a debate prep, gave a good showing of precisely why Romney was relieved to be only be dating the president instead of Portman himself. Addressing Udall personally, Portman launched into an urgent litany of reasons why the administration's story desperately required clarification and not for political reasons at all. Specifically, Portman took aim at the administration over recent revelations that the White House may have known about the danger to American assets in Benghazi and might have decided, in spite of it, not to send reinforcements or protect those assets any further. He combined with his previous revelations suggesting that the administration had ignored requests for more security in the run-up to Benghazi to paint a brutal picture of incompetence on the part of the executive branch. There was a shocking breakdown operationally, not having the security forces in there in the first place, and not to respond to these guys and their pleas for help for 7 hours during a firefight is unbelievable. And now we're hearing that the President of the United States, based on his own words, issued a directive immediately after he found out about the firefight, saying he wanted to be sure people on the ground were safe and they were getting what they needed. It didn't happen. This means that either the President's order was not followed, which would be a breakdown in terms of White House procedure, or it means the order wasn't issued. And we need to find this out. Portman later observed incredulously, "This makes no sense," which is absolutely correct. You've got Panetta saying one thing, you've got the president saying another thing, and you've got dead citizens and ambassadors. Coming from the generally mild-mannered Portman, this emphatic demand for information must have sounded more than a little chilling to supporters of the administration. And certainly, Portman has his reasons for incredulity and urgency, as Jennifer Rubin at the Washington Post asked. Meanwhile, the father of slain SEAL Tyrone Woods is furious at the administration, demanding to know why his son wasn't saved, and when apparently even the State Department had a live stream and was aware of the calls for help. You get that, people? We talk about the drones, we talk about this, that, and the other. Well, these things, you have eyes in the sky, you have eyes on the ground. My son wasn't even there. He was at a safe house a mile away. He got the distress call, he heard them crying for help, and that's why he and Glenn risked their lives to go that extra mile to take care of the situation. I'm not sure that wasn't the only one that received, and I'm sure that wasn't the only one that received distress calls. Quote unquote, come save our lives. Did Defense Secretary Leon Panetta take it upon himself to call off the rescue effort? He told the press on Thursday that Pentagon lacked clear information as to what was going on. How the hell can you say, the guy that orders Marines to disarm, he's going to talk out of his ass and his face at the same time? I'll even give you another quarter for that one. Where was the president, and did he or some other official take it upon himself to deny help to the trapped Americans? Very simple questions coming from some simple Americans to an even simpler group of elected officials. I'm going to start to call them simple-minded. A few cards short of a full deck. And here's the honest answer to it. If the administration doesn't like these kinds of comments, at this stage of the game, we already have dead civilians and ambassadors, we can't lose anything more. So if you have facts, release the facts and tell us to shut the hell up. But if you're going to executive privilege everything, close the records, then you're going to continue to get this shit from us. Because guess what? We care. We love our country and we help our citizens. We, the people, do not leave people behind, while you, the administration, may. This only goes to show what I have said for eons in the political, social arena. It is us and them. And that is what patriots need to stop. It is supposed to be we, the people, not us and them. Understand there is a huge difference, and we continue to put up with the lesser of all evils in our electoral process, shoved at us by political pundits that don't get it, don't want to, and have their own agenda. This is unacceptable on American soil. This is unacceptable by administrators who mean to administer. They tell you they'll love you to death. As a human being, I love everybody too. But as a patriot, it's the to death part that I don't like. We'll love you to death, but we mean to rule your sorry, simple asses. That's exactly what this administration is saying. Will we, the people, wake up? And when I say administration, I'm not pointing to a single person. I'm talking to the whole administration. That goes for Congress and Senate. It's us and them. You go to Washington, you become them. For whatever reason, you lose your cojones. You lose your rational references that you used to have when you were back here at home. You run on these home style lifestyles that you led here, and then you go to Washington and you blow yourself up, and you become exactly what you said you despised when you were back here, and you wave the flag of, well, I'm only one person, I can't do anything. That isn't what your commercial said. When I get to Washington, I'm going to do this. When I get to there, I'm going to do that. When I go to Madison, I'm going to do that. You can kiss my ass. You can't do a jack shit by yourself. It gets to be so disgusting. I've said 100 times, I'll elect a soccer mom the President of the United States of America. I don't care. She couldn't screw it up anymore. I'll take an unemployed factory worker from the auto manufacturers. I'll stick him in a senator or congressman up in Washington. He couldn't screw it up anymore. People in America, wake up. And with that, hey, it's just my opinion. And what do I know? I'm just Jim. And I'm on WPG every morning, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when I decide to come. Sometimes I have things that gets in the way. But anyway, that's the show for today, folks. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to me, blah, blah, blah. Hope I converted a few people into the Patriot aisle. And with that, when it's all said and done, you have to be good to each other. We can piss and moan and argue about this, that, and the other thing. But when it's all over, we only have each other, and we got to be good to each others. God bless each and every one of you, and we'll see you. Have a great weekend, a good day, a better tomorrow, and an absolutely better tomorrow. It has to be better tomorrow. That's what it's all about. Because we live in America. I happen to live at Lake Wish I Be Gone. But with that, we'll go back. We'll catch you. We'll get back to work, and we'll see you next week on Tuesday. Unless there's something special, and that's Election Day, by the by. We may be on for longer than 2 hours next week. We have we may have to see if we can get some news feeds from some certain places and see what's going on. We'll keep up to date with it. And with that, we will catch you on the social networks. Again, thanks for hanging out. This is Just Jim in the Morning, signing off.
getting back to school, I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, oh glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states, 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation, and justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance, under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer, and that would be eliminated from schools too?